This one. All right, I think we're running. Well, Danielle, I do appreciate you taking the time. In fact, I'll just get this question out of the way right away. Because I was talking to my daughter about it. You were nice enough to do her podcast over a year ago. But full-time job at KCBS. You're an author of several books. You have your coaching business, narcissistic abuse recovery coach, also a certified domestic violence counselor. Either you don't sleep and have no social life, or you have the best time management skills of anybody I've ever met. How do you do all this?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I am oftentimes multitasking. So, something that's very important to me, for example, is to walk 2 miles a day. So, as I walk my 2 miles, that's when I'm filming my YouTube content and my TikTok content and things
Yes,
like
I have
that.
seen several of those on YouTube. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had to do a strict no work on the weekends policy unless it's like an emergency client,
Okay.
just to, get back some of that personal time. That's the time I devote to seeing friends and family and loved ones and everything like that. But I think that it really helps to stay on track with a checklist every day of things
Okay.
you need to do. I just knock them out. I actually love checking off that box. It brings me a lot of joy. So, it's a work in progress though, because some days I do have days where I just want to watch Netflix and watch the whole Love is Blind season or something like that.
Oh no. Yeah, my roommate's addicted to that. She can probably hear me. I love you, Ame. That's hilarious.
So bad that
Um,
it's good.
I don't know. I know you're busy. I don't know if you had a chance to even listen to any of the other podcasts I sent you to kind of get a feel if you know why I'm doing this or what the whole point of it is.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Did you or?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then I don't have to go over it again because I usually explain it to people. Yeah, it's basically your origin story. Um, so born and raised in Hermosa Beach?
Yep, I lived in Hermosa Beach until I was 18 and went off to college. And
Yep.
it was just a really fun place to grow up. I mean, we were always, going to surf camp as kids or playing beach volleyball or going on nice hikes, walking down the Strand. It was a very safe community, and
Okay.
so it was a great place to grow up in the South Bay. And a lot of people don't even really know about it. It's kind of LA's hidden gem. Even people from the Valley don't know where Hermosa Beach is. So.
Because it's kind of, if I looked at it right on the map, it's kind of just south of like Malibu.
It's like 15 minutes south of LAX. So
Okay.
it's further south than Malibu. Yeah.
But literally on the beach, as the name would imply.
Yeah, it's on the beach. It's 1 square mile long, the
Okay.
entire city. But it's got its own police department and it's got its own fire department and all of that. So it's a real city and city council. And it's great. And they have a festival every year for like Labor Day and Memorial Day. They'll have a big festival, Hermosa. It's super close to the beach life music
Okay.
festival. And it's just a really great community.
Nice. And again, share whatever you want. I'm not trying to get dirt or anything. So if there's something personal you don't want to talk about and I breach it, we can move on. Family, you have siblings?
Yep, I have a younger sister. She lives 10 minutes away from me. And
Okay.
my parents live in LA as well. So it's the four of us. And my sister's getting married this year. So
Oh, very
uh,
cool.
we got another one joining the family. And we're a very close-knit family. We see each other probably once a week. And I talk to my sister constantly on the phone. I mean, daily and sometimes multiple times daily, especially right now as we're planning her bachelorette party in Tulum together. Uh,
Yes.
so,
Yes. Yep.
so yeah, I mean, family is very, very important.
Is it going to be this is a sidebar because I had a DJ business for like 15 years. So I've done several like weddings and other events. Um, is it a destination wedding or are you doing like in an event space somewhere in LA or?
Kind of, it's in Montana.
Oh,
That's where
nice.
I'm from. Yeah.
But
So
you're still going through the in checklist of having to plan it. I hope she has a wedding coordinator. That helps a lot.
It does help a lot. Yeah, it's a big ordeal when you break it down to like what kind of chairs should there be and what kind of gift bags and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It was always because I would do like club gigs as a DJ, but the weddings I did always I felt like I don't think it's possible, but I felt like I stressed out more than the bride did because I was in charge of the music. I also usually ended up being the MC. So, and it's her wedding day. It has to be perfect. So yeah, I would give myself ulcers about it. But anyway, it's not about me, but I just that was interesting that I feel your pain, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, I totally get that because I officiated a wedding one time and I thought it would be a piece of cake since I come from a broadcasting background and public speaking and stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually was so nervous and stressed out because I realized like this is the most important moment of these two people's lives and you have to get it
Yes.
right and it needs to be perfect and it needs to be a good combination of like funny but serious. So
Yes.
it was intense. But it
Wow.
went great. It
Yes.
went great.
So, kind of going back to all grown up until high school, undergrad at Berkeley, I believe. The one in the Bay Area, not the School of Music,
Yeah,
obviously.
undergrad at UC Berkeley. So I was in the Bay Area for quite some time. And I did undergrad in 3 years,
Hmm.
which saved some money. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was in school, it was right after the recession, and tuition from the time I was a freshman to the time I would have been a senior would have gone up 80% in those 4 years.
Are you talking about the 2008 crash and all that?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
little bit after that, and the
Okay.
tuition was skyrocketing. And of course, Berkeley students don't need a reason to protest, but everyone was protesting the tuition hikes, and we have all these student loans that are getting higher and higher, but we can't get a job because of the recession.
Yeah.
So it was a very radical time to go, and I made a decision at that point, like I need to save money and apply it to grad school. So I graduated in 3 years from there and then
I
went
was
to,
gonna say, was that partly the impetus to just go? You went to Stanford for your master's right after that. Was that the reason you were like, instead of just trying to get a job, maybe I'll just go back and get my master's since the market is so bad?
yeah, that was part of it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I basically knew that I can't do math at all. So that didn't leave a lot of options. And and my major in at Berkeley was kind of close to pre-law, but I
Okay.
realized I didn't want to be a lawyer, and so that really didn't leave a lot of options. And I wanted to go into journalism, but again, this was a time when the newspapers were dying and digital news wasn't really a thing yet. There wasn't really a lot of options for actual viewership and an actual career in journalism at that point unless you went into broadcast.
Okay.
So I got the master's because it was in the Silicon Valley and it taught me about technology and the cameras equipment and the editing systems and all that. So that was a good first step to making a demo reel and getting that first on-air reporting job.
So your undergraduate work wasn't in journalism.
No, it was mostly essay writing.
Okay.
And one of my books is how to write a rhetorical essay, and it's kind of a
Yes.
collection of all the essays from that time. But it was really good in a sense of getting the structure of writing, which even when you're a broadcaster, you're still writing a web article every single day, and you're
Yeah.
still, writing. And so, to be able to have like a strong first sentence and thesis and cohesive narrative throughout, it was great for that. But yeah, I really didn't get into journalism fully until that graduate program.
Then I guess that's what I was going to ask also. Let's go back to your middle school, high school years. Did you always have the writing bug, or was it more had you even thought about being a reporter at that age?
I always knew that I wanted to be some kind of writer, and I
Okay.
always wanted to be an author because I thought that it was awesome to like put all the work in ahead of time and then just collect the royalties and be able to travel and do whatever. But I knew that seemed like such a far off notion. I mean, that seemed like trying to put all your eggs into a basket that might not work out. And
Hmm.
so when I was like 15, 16 years old, I would go on Craigslist and look at the ads for local newspapers that needed articles. And so I was always
Oh,
doing that. I just wasn't getting paid for it because I was underage. But
okay.
there was like all these different news articles that I would do for like Paste Magazine, for example, and things like that, which was great because when you write for like a music publication, you get to go to concerts for free. So I got to
Yeah.
go to a variety of different free concerts, which was um but yeah, that sparked my interest. And then as I got into college and grad school, the newspapers were just getting worse and worse by that point.
As far as kind of phasing out print media, or was there a shift in the content? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, they couldn't get advertising revenue anymore. They couldn't compete with websites and Twitter and Facebook and all of that. And so they were just gutting their staff so that, I mean, and I think it's still true nowadays, like for a small paper, there might be two people and an editor writing that entire paper each week. I don't even
Covering every section, whether it's entertainment, local news, sports, whatever.
Right, right. Every single section. So I thought there's just less and less jobs in this medium.
Then after Stanford with your master's degree, it looks like your first job was in Northern California. Is it KRCR7?
Yeah, so I did a few internships and things like that. And then when you get into broadcast, you have to start out in a small market, a
Mhm.
small city, and kind of like try to work your way up to the bigger cities. So I always wanted to get back to LA. And I was fortunate that I didn't have to leave California because I had offers in like Pocatello, Idaho, and like Watertown, New York, and like Guam.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
I was just like sobbing, thinking that I would have to go to those places. No offense to them, but I wasn't cut out for it. You know, I grew up in like 70-degree weather my whole life. So,
Yes.
but then Reading, that opportunity came up. And so I went 3 hours up the five from the Bay Area to Reading,
Hmm.
put my time in there. Um, wasn't for me. Small town living, very
Were
different.
you a reporter at that station? Was this probably several different positions there? Anchor or kind of a outside reporter, or
You
doing
you
both?
you do everything in a small market. You're your own photographer, you're your own editor. You have to do two news packages, you have to present them, you have to do anchoring, you have to do reporting out in the field, you have to make your own phone calls, you have to find your own news stories.
So
It
when
was
you're going out in the field to maybe do an interview, you're having to be your own camera person?
Yeah, so you prop it on a tripod.
Okay.
And you have to make sure that you're in frame, so you turn the camera so that you can
Yeah. How do
see
you do
that.
that by yourself? You just mark a spot on the ground, stand on it, and then go look and see if that worked? And,
Yeah, basically, it takes practice. It's not the easiest thing to do.
oh my gosh.
And sometimes you're out of frame and you have to like adjust it and post op and make sure that the framing, you're like zooming in on the person's face. You ever see the news interviews and it's super zoomed in on the person's face?
Yes.
It's probably because the photographer like framed something wrong and they have to.
But in a way, that was almost a good training ground because you learned all aspects of the business. And at a small station like that, you probably got to cover a variety of stories. You weren't designated to sports or whatever.
Yeah, it was so many different stories. I was so close to wildfires that my shoes would melt, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't let you do that in a bigger market. There's unions and there's rules and stuff like that. But in a small market, they're like, go to town. You burn, you
Wow.
burn. Yeah, and people in Reading, they do weird drugs, and so they therefore commit weird crimes, which I got to report on. So
That's funny because I've been through Reading several times. I actually, it's one of my favorite parts of California because I'm a snowboarder. I love the mountains and all that, and then the forest and the lakes. But I've heard, yeah, Redding has its drug problem. I don't know what it is, but I've kind of heard people say that about Redding. But I thought it was a beautiful town. I didn't spend a ton of time there, but I like the area.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. You got Lake Shasta and
Hmm.
Mount Shasta, and it's a gorgeous landscape. And the people are super friendly, but the ones committing crimes, the ones I'm reporting on, they're committing weird crimes.
So yeah, an anonymous example, give of a weird crime because of a weird drug.
Well, like there's this one lady and she got in a high-speed chase with police in a Scooby-Doo van. Like it looked just
Like
like
the
the
mystery
Mystery
van.
Machine. Yeah. Just like the Mystery Machine. And then she was going like 100 miles an hour. This made like national headlines because it was so goofy. And then she crashed it and she ran into the woods and they found a bunch of meth paraphernalia in the car. So,
Okay, that makes sense. So 3 years there, and then it looks like you went from there down to San Diego.
yeah. So NBC San Diego called and I was like, that rocks. I've always wanted to live in San Diego.
So
So,
they kind of recruited you. You weren't looking at them necessarily.
uh, I don't remember. I think maybe I applied and then they got back to
Oh,
me.
okay, but they were interested.
Yeah, yeah. So then went down there and I was the first and only digital multimedia journalist. So I was a digital correspondent and I was in charge of getting their digital product to peak fitness through the various mediums that NBC was interested in infiltrating at that time. So like Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook, and it was a lot of strategy about how do we get these younger viewers, these millennials, these early Gen Zers, to come to our platforms and to look at snippets of news and how do we make things quicker for a shorter attention span and what's it
Hmm.
going to look like on this platform compared to that platform. I was also doing TV reporting too, but I was also filming my own stuff even in that market.
And we're talking 2017, I believe, when you started there. So the news station obviously had its own website, but maybe you had more experience on how to utilize social media to drive traffic to the news station.
Yeah, yeah. So at this time, news stations knew that we could really monetize our website. We could really monetize YouTube. We could really monetize social media platforms to get viewers, not to the broadcast, because the broadcast is going to be people who have cable, which is not millennials anymore.
Right.
It's like boomers, right?
Yes.
And so how do we how do we shift it into a younger audience while still generating revenue for the news station that we're not going to be getting from TV commercials? And that looks like getting as many people to your website as possible. Well, how do you do that? Because the younger audience is disillusioned by the news and we're starting to get into, fake news, that territory, fake news, this, right? And so it was an interesting pivoting time for news. There was the question of how do you let viewers know that we're legitimate, that we're telling the facts, that we're still a great news source, even if you're getting it from Snapchat.
Let's do a little deeper dive on that topic because I had actually thought about that too. And I also heard you on some of your, I've listened to a few other podcasts you were on and you touched on this. I mean, it's terrible nowadays. How you hear so many people screaming about you can't trust any news source. There's a very large mistrust of traditional media. Um, and I mean I'm kind of guilty of it, but I'd like to hear your perspective on have the reporters changed that much, or is it a perception change of the public to the news?
So it depends what you're consuming. I mean, if you're looking at local news, I always tell people I didn't get a pay raise from swaying your opinion. What do I care what your opinion is?
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm just the path for you to get the information that you need.
Hmm.
Now, when you get to the big networks and you get to the commentators, then yeah, absolutely. They do have a financial incentive to try to sway you one way or the other. And they're going to be saying things that they know their viewers want to hear. They're going to be covering topics that they know their viewers want to watch. Um, but I directly saw the difference in 2016 from my short news career thus far, people being very excited about being on ABC up there, the ABC affiliate. Hey, you're walking into the grocery store. Can you tell me about gas prices? Can you tell me about this burglary that happened down the street? Does that scare you? Things like that. People were excited to be on the news.
Oh, you're talking about almost like the man on the street, person
The
on the
man on the
street
street.
interviews.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was a definitive shift from 2016 to 2017 into what are you? Oh, NBC, ABC. Oh, I can't talk to you. You're fake news. Now, why would I go on the news? No, I don't trust you. You're gonna switch my words up. No, I don't want that. So the switch was like being honored and excited being on the news to being skeptical, which ultimately, if you have an hour to get 10 interviews from people on the street and you have a deadline, it makes your
Mhm.
job a lot harder when everyone's saying no to you.
And that shift happened fast, it sounded like. You said 2016 to 2017 is kind of when you noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
And has that continued to kind of go that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow,
It's been that way kind of ever since.
that is disappointing. Then let's dovetail this in. I know you also went from NBC in San Diego to Fox. Looks
Hmm.
like you were there for almost a year, a little bit. At what point, well, you also talked about this on another podcast, your other business, the narcissistic abuse recovery coach. At what at what point did you kind of did that plant the seed? Because I've heard you talk about your career as a reporter, you're interviewing CEOs, you're interviewing criminals, probably in prison sometimes, you're interviewing celebrities or you're engaging with celebrities. Um, and at some point you started realizing, wow, I'm seeing a pattern here in certain types of people, male and female, I'm sure. Um, and I'm learning there's a way I have to navigate these conversations maybe in order to get to do my job. But at some point you had an inspiration or just it occurred to you like, wow, this is a thing. And maybe people need some help with this.
Yeah, so I was working at Fox. I was doing digital anchoring. The pandemic hit, shutdowns were occurring. CBS LA called at that point, or I called them again, I can't remember. So I got the job at CBS LA, and um, during the shutdowns, even though I was hired, they didn't know what to do because I couldn't go into the news station to train. And they were trying to figure that out and just figure out what the heck was happening because nobody knew how long it was going to last at that point or anything. And so I started to do some freelance work for this other news station during that time to uh, supplement my income. And
I think I wrote that down, but can you say their name?
Newsnet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that I was you didn't name them, so I wasn't sure. But yeah, that was on my list. It looked like that kind of overlapped. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I basically like called them because I didn't have any options. And I was like, okay, they're based in Michigan, but they have a channel out here on broadcast. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be your West Coast bureau chief.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we don't have a bureau. And I was like, I know, I'm going to start it for you.
I like the go-gettedness. Yeah.
So they were like, okay. And so during that time, when I'm freelancing for them, kind of trying to figure CBS out, everyone was on TikTok and everybody was talking about the Gabby Petito case.
Hmm.
And there was so much information coming in, nobody knew who to trust on there. And so I was like, I got a lot of experience with trust and digital news reporting. I'm going to start reporting on this case. I did like, I don't know, probably a 45-part series
Oh,
about
wow.
this is what you can trust. There was not a sighting of Brian Laundrie. That was made up. This is what we
Okay.
know. Yes, it's confirmed that her body was found, all that stuff. So people started to come to my page because of that. Well, then I was trying to think about now that this case is kind of concluding, what can I do to, get relevant information out there that people would be interested in? And I was just kind of swiping around, and there was a lot of talk about how to talk to narcissists and how to talk to a sociopath or a psychopath. And I thought, well, I've got a ton of experience with that because of what you were mentioning. I've interviewed convicted criminals, I've interviewed celebrities and people in prison and CEOs and high power lawyers and whatever. And there's always a power struggle with that because I go in, I'm in complete control of how they're going to look. They know that. And so they're trying to flip it. If they don't want to answer a question, they're trying to get around it. And for a lot of people, they will get distracted. And actually, a lot of reporters, too, you can see it. They will dart that way and go off topic, and then the person isn't being held accountable in the moment, right?
Okay.
So I kind of had a sense based on my experience, and I released this video, how to win any argument with a narcissist. Well, that got like 2 million views or something more than that. It just like blew up. And so I did a series on that. And I just had all these people asking me for coaching. And I thought, I'm not, I don't do that. I'm a news reporter. I don't do coaching. That's no. Um, so then finally CBS got in touch and I was able to, start to go in person and start that job and all of that.
Hmm.
But I still had all these people asking me for this service. And I kept saying, I don't do that. I can't do that. And then it was like some kind of New Year's resolution where I was like, I'm just going to say yes to everything.
Which is how you ended up on my podcast because you were silly enough to say yes. But thank you.
Yeah. And so I started taking on counseling clients and I got certified as a domestic violence counselor at that point. And um, so kind of just started a small business by accident. And people come to me based on the videos that I post.
Mhm.
And at first I was really scared to do it, but it's actually not a lot different than a news interview because the only difference is that you're giving advice back
Mhm.
instead of just listening to the person. You're now giving advice back about what to do. And I love it. It's been great. I've coached people all over the world at this point in all 50 states, 6 continents out of 7.
Well, and I'm assuming, again, your experience and interest and desire to be a reporter kind of because it wasn't only this. I mean, there's at least 9 books I saw on Amazon that actually cover a wide variety of topics. I'm assuming your interest and you're a reporter, you know how to learn, you know how to do investigations, you know how to get information. You have the networking ninja, you have the prompt engineering opportunities, new chat, TP, or no, GPT, sorry. The online detective, everyone's been hacked. Were all of these ideas for these from news experiences or stories you were covering? And you were like, hey, that's interesting. I'm going to do a deeper dive on that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've always really enjoyed tech reporting.
Okay.
And when I first heard about ChatGPT and prompt engineering and AI, I was just fascinated. I was like, I need to know everything about this. Um, and I really enjoy writing books. It's really a hobby and a passion of mine. I think I'm going to stop at 10 because it is kind of all consuming.
Yeah.
it's hard for me to think about anything else until the book's done.
Yeah. And then I'm assuming you have readers, or do you have readers that you will run it by before you're publishing it, or
Yeah, yeah. My sister edits my books, actually. She's a really, really great editor, and that was one of her minors in college. And so, I mean, the the biggest performing book is the book on narcissists,
Mhm.
and I don't even know if anyone has even bought the other books, and I don't care. I just do it because I have to.
Yeah.
And so, I always tell people that anyone can write a book. I mean, you can publish it for free on Amazon. You can turn it into an audiobook for free.
Hmm.
You can do paperback and hard copy, and it just requires a certain amount of determination to get it done and to get it structured in the way that you want it. But yeah, it was more a hobby that turned into something more full time, and I just write about what I like or what I'm interested in.
Yeah. And the was your sister a co-author on one of those that I saw? Because there was another name with the last name Radin on one of your books.
Oh yeah, she was the editor.
Okay.
So I think I throw her up there every now and then on Amazon, just give her that editor credit.
Yeah, give her a shout out, of course.
Give her a shout out.
Then okay, your recovery coach business, it sounds like that's keeping you kind of busy. And I'm assuming your CBS job is it pretty much Monday through Friday?
It's it was like a freelance thing, so it's always different. Kind of just
Okay, so you
depends
don't
on,
necessarily have a set schedule.
right.
Okay, which allows you time to when you have to. I'm assuming you can't control when there's going to be a story that needs to be covered, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've been putting more focus on the small business.
Hmm.
I feel that I took journalism as far as I could. I always wanted to make it to LA,
Hmm.
and it started to be a huge time commitment with the small business, with the coaching to try to scale it, and the customer service aspect of it and the scheduling and appointments and all of that kind of stuff. So I really get a lot of fulfillment out of running my own business because I've never really done well under managers.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of managers that I really like, but I've always been a very autonomous worker, and I don't do well when I'm being micromanaged. And
I mean,
so
it sounds like you're kind of a self-starter anyway, so you don't necessarily need somebody there prompting you.
yeah, yeah, I find that I work a lot harder and a lot longer when it's just up to me with like in a small business setting. It's like, well, if I don't get this done, I let myself down. And if I do get it done, then the business and the clients thrive. So, I'll send emails at like 3 in the morning to clients in Australia because it's a different time zone, right? And I just never would have done that well, maybe in the beginning I did that in a broadcast setting, but you do have to, again, find a work-life balance because
Mhm.
with journalism, you're not taking holidays, you can work weekends. I think I've worked every like Christmas and New Year's for the last 10 years or something like that. So it's good to go on this new path and see where that goes.
And then actually, I was this is something I just thought of. Um, it's, I mean, I think you're doing it for you have a passion for it, and it's got to be rewarding on some level when you can help people. But at the same time, is there some uh, you almost have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Decompress after, because you probably deal with some clients that are in bad situations. Um, and even if even after you might successfully help them improve their situation, I guess I could compare it to being a therapist. I've been in therapy for like 9 years, and I have two therapists. I love them. They're awesome. But sometimes I wonder, you spend your entire day listening to people's problems and their life, and like, how do you decompress? And I guess you have to learn to separate that from your personal life so you can actually not have all that stuff in your head when you're trying to relax and have dinner.
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge, and ultimately, I try to remind myself that I'm trying to help these people out of these situations. But it is hard not to wonder because, to a certain extent, you coach someone, you counsel someone out of a traumatic situation, and then you leave it there. You're not going to talk to that person after that. And sometimes I wonder, like, are they okay? Did they get out of
Yeah.
it? Are they doing good? Are they happy? Certain clients will pop up in my mind. And I just hope that they're happy, but you never really know. And so, yeah, I personally live a narcissist-free life. I weeded out toxic people.
And
And
was that a process to go through? Again, anonymous, no names or whatever, but was there a few or more in your life that you kind of had to put your boundaries up, I guess?
yeah, I mean, I don't go around labeling people in my waking life. I just go off of how are they treating me and my loved ones around me? Are they improving our life or are they making our life harder? Um, do they have my best interest in mind? Do their actions line up with their words? Do they seem to be authentic? Things like that are what I really care about. And so I just weeded out the people that didn't abide by that. And it's just ultimately a way more fulfilling, stress-free life at that point.
Yeah, because I can imagine, and I'm interested in this topic, but I also don't want to I don't want you giving too much stuff that you normally would charge people for. So it's not going to be a session, but it can be mentally and emotionally exhausting. Um, I've had I've had experience with I now that I've listened to you talk about it enough, I think I've had experience with people in my lives. You know, it could be coworkers, it could be neighbors, whatever. Um, it is amazing when you can remove yourself from the situation, set up the boundary or whatever. Um, it's kind of like they say when you retire. You don't realize how stressed and how much anxiety you had in the job until you retire and you get away from it. So when you get away from this situation, you almost it might take 6 months or a year to kind of wow, holy crap, I had anxiety and stress all the time and I didn't even realize it, but that became my norm. And you're like, wow, there is a whole different way to live.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when you have a toxic person, it sucks your time, energy, and attention in more ways than people realize. Because when you're distracted over here by this person and trying to figure out an unsolvable puzzle, you're just not focused on the things that matter, the things that are most fulfilling, the things that can help you along. And so it is true that people fall into a pattern of familiarity with that kind of toxic relationship, and they forget that there's another option of only surrounding yourself with people who have your best interest in mind and don't cause you to go into a fight or flight, walking on eggshells response every time you interact with them.
Yeah, again, you don't even, yeah, if you get too deep into it, sometimes it's hard to realize that that's not normal. That's not okay, and there is a better way to do it. Have you noticed because of the rise of social media, and I've had this discussion with so many people, technology, computers, social media is advancing faster than the human brain can evolve to handle. So this whole this generation of kids that are raised on their phones and social media and you haven't been doing it that long, but I don't know, in your research or just even experience, are you noticing an uptick in people that might have narcissistic tendencies? Is it kind of a result of everybody's on their phone? everybody is looking at social media and everybody else's lives look so much better because they're putting stuff on there and it makes other people feel sad or insecure or you know what I mean? The fake perception of what their real life is. You've heard this before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's definitely part of it. I think that in the old days, like in the 90s or something,
I remember it. I'm a lot older than you, so yeah.
if you would have encountered this personality type, you might have just called them a jerk. Oh, that person's a real jerk. Now with social media, you have empowerment through the knowledge of this stuff. It's everywhere. You can't go on social media without learning about these terms. Wait, what's gaslighting? What's stonewalling? What's sociopath? What does that mean,
What's
right?
ghosting or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that people are more aware of it and so it seems like it's more prevalent because it's less under the radar than ever before. And there's more information about it and more people are talking about it than ever before. But I do like to remind people, I mean, this is a very small percentage of the population. And ultimately, there's a large percentage of the population that are just good people doing the best they can every day.
But it's almost the squeaky wheel gets the noise. You know, the vocal minority, the narcissists, it's a small minority, but they seem to make the most noise. Maybe because they cause the most damage. So it might seem like a bigger problem. I'm glad you said that it's not the majority of people.
Yeah, it's not. And you're right. A narcissistic person is the most likely to commit a violent crime. For example, psychopaths make up maybe 1 to 4% of the population, but they're responsible for 40% of the violent crimes in this country, right? So,
Yes.
of course, they are can be very damaging and destructive people. So you're going to hear about that in crime documentaries and online and all of that. But again, it is important to not get so hung up on the labels, more so how is the person treating you,
Hmm.
not how you want the person to be. How is the person acting towards you? And if they're acting in a way that's toxic, and they're acting in a way that's completely destructive to you and your finances and your spirituality and your mental health, well, what are you going to do about that at that point?
Oh, and I just thought about this because I made we started this and I mentioned, I've had experience with some of these people in my life. You're not going to get this, but I have to say it since it's recording. I am not talking about my wife at all. I just want that out there since some people that know her are going to see this. I'm like, you're amazing. Stop it. Um, but again, also, again, I know we're coming up on 50 minutes. I'm not going to keep you too long. I appreciate your time. In the research and studying you've done with this, have you kind of is there the people that study this, is there a consensus on whether, and it's probably both, environmental or genetic, the people that end up like this, or maybe a combination of both?
Well, it can be a combination. I mean, if they're a psychopath, they were born that way.
True.
If they're a sociopath, they were made. If they're a narcissist, it depends. There's several factors. I mean, people assume that it's just childhood trauma or something really bad that happened to them that turned them into that. Well, you can also become a narcissist from what's called the little princess syndrome or the little prince syndrome. And that's a child who grows up with absolutely no boundaries, no rules, never told no, given everything in the world, thinks that no doesn't exist, thinks they're above the law and rules, and you start to get a narcissist that forms who has a gross sense of entitlement and thinks the world owes them something and is willing to lie to get whatever they want, right? So it's a variety of different factors and it's dependent on the person.
Yeah, because if you've never had any boundaries set for you as a child, you're going to have those expectations as an adult.
Right. If you grow up with zero repercussions to your actions, then you learn that if you just say the right thing and if you lie and if you cheat your way out of it, then you can get whatever you want.
Yes. Yes. With your permission, of course, I will put links to your website. What's the best link I should put as far as for your recovery coach business?
My YouTube would be good. I'm trying.
Okay, I'll add that to that. Um, oh, I was gonna on a lighter note because we got deep there. It when I found out you were born and raised in Hermosa Beach, it did strike me as funny because when I first started listening to you, even on my daughter's podcast and some of your YouTube videos, I sense a hint of a twang, a southern accent in the way you talk, but you were born in California and raised there.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Okay, so it's not just me.
No, no, I get that all the time because I articulate, because when you're in the news, you articulate your words.
Yes,
Yeah, I get that all the time. But no, I've only ever lived in California.
that's funny. And the only reason, probably the reason I recognize it is my father's from North Carolina, Tennessee. I have a ton of family in the South, so I was like, wow, you made it all the way to LA from Georgia, you know.
Well, I did adopt saying y'all because one time I was live reporting to viewers and I said, you guys should see this. And a female viewer wrote to me and said, it's not all men who are watching. So I said, that's true. I'm going to start saying y'all because it's not gender specific.
Now you're being inclusive. Oh my gosh. So with your permission, no edits, I can post this and you're happy with it?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Again, Danielle, I really appreciate your time. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but thank you so much. I guarantee I'm gonna get a bigger bump from you than you're gonna get from me because I have hardly any listeners. But this is kind of a passion project for me. I just like talking to people that have had different lives than me because that's how I learn and grow as a person. So, I do appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Those were really great questions, and I look forward to seeing the final result here.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop it right now.